Starbucks drum.
I'm sorry?
I have a drum that is a Starbucks. It reminds me of being at the dentist's office. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to this week's podcast, which this week will be brought to you by guessing games with very big consequences, and also the right actually being right for once.
This week's podcast is also brought to you by Rising and Thick Foods.
Mm.
That's it.
Oh, well, I am your host, Madison.
I'm your other host, Jesse James. Welcome to our... Oh, boy. Welcome to our conversational leftist mukbang, and speaking of the dentist office, it's going to get wild in here today. So what was the right about this last week and a half or whatever?
So, lately, for people who have been trying to shut out all of reality / living their holiday lives, the Congress has been going back and forth on this stimulus bill situation. And Trump came out and was like, fuck it, I'm out. Let's give everyone $2,000. That seems good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other Republicans were like, please stop. No. And as it stands now, I believe they moved forward with the $600 stimulus deal.
I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of like back and forth reporting on it, but I know the House passed the 2,000, but I don't know that matters. So it's all I know is that they kind of relinquished on it, and there will be some amount of money showing up for at least a fair amount of people.
Right.
So that I guess you can pay some of your rent this month.
Yeah, whatever chunk is good. But where them being right comes into play is that I have been seeing across different like right / far right commentators, entertainers, like Alex Jones type people calling out the Republicans and basically saying these people have dropped the ball for you. You should have had $2,000.
Right.
And I mean, they have their own. Everyone seems to have their own gripe with the bill. Some of it's like the foreign spending. In my own family, someone complained about the retirement benefits, I guess.
Okay.
That they were giving in some states. I don't know the exact breakdown of everything, but it is kind of fun to see people like, I can't remember if it was Ben Shapiro or if it was Nick Fuentes or someone else calling for voters in Georgia to not vote at all for Mitch McConnell.
There's a handful of people
cool.
doing that. So part of that storyline too is that Trump is I don't think he's doing this specifically on purpose, because I think he's still more on the Republican side than anything.
Yeah.
But he is at least seemingly trying to just kind of fuck with everything. Like, there's a lot of people on the left and the right talking about how a $2,000 stimulus is just unreasonable and it'll take money from other things, which isn't really necessary, but that's what people are going to complain about anyway. There's even been some like Washington Post reporting talking about how, which you would normally associate with at least liberal writing, that's been talking about like we already give so much in the US for this like COVID relief, which is just like, no, we don't. Like, we give a large amount of our GDP, like, compared to other things to this, unless those other things are the military, which we once again boosted the payments for by like a yearly amount that's like not much less than what the stimulus is. Like,
Right.
it's not anything compared to what we are able to pay. We're just choosing not to do it. Um, I kind of have a feeling, and this is supported by nothing, that Trump just wants to like play something that makes him look good and doesn't care about any of the side effects of it.
Absolutely.
Which I think most people probably kind of assume, unless they're QAnon weirdos or things like that. And
believe in the 5D chess that
he's
supposedly playing.
Believe that he's actually trying to save us from demons.
And he's a triple double agent for Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus was like, you go and you have sex with kids with that pedophile, and then you bust him.
That's how that works.
That's how Jesus does. Yeah, he already had people who were like Trump stans turning against Mitch McConnell because Mitch McConnell accepted Biden's victory. So Mitch McConnell, like 2-3 weeks ago, whenever it was starting to look like he was agreeing with it, got called a double agent, essentially. Like, everybody said he was a turncoat and that he's not on the Trump team anymore. And now that's sort of extended down into the rest of the party, which is crazy because, like, the whole Bernie bro thing of, like, the left are trying to pull away from, like, the liberal, like, centrist part of the population, but like the people who are successful in doing that are these fucking QAnon shitheads, and like the left needs to actually have some gumption. I don't know where you get that from unless you're committed to a fake version of a religion that has convinced you that there's monsters all over the place trying to get you. So
right.
It's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and I probably should put some like I don't know, clarifications around when I say that the right is right about this.
Some caveats.
I feel like they're implied, obviously, but one thing I am enjoying seeing about this, like this call for don't vote for this person or this person because they sold you out. One thing the right does very, very well is they get rid of the politicians that don't work for them. And those people get like, I don't know, I can't think of a word, but they're like excommunicated. If they don't work for them, you don't hear from them again.
They're more or less ousted. Like they don't work with the rest of them, so they don't want to work with them at all.
Right. And that's kind of how that machine works, but on the left, because well, for a lot of reasons, but our choices are narrow a lot of the time because there's not a whole lot of like large financial support, I guess, is probably the biggest reason.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And a lot of just like higher level organization surrounding that. So we get stuck dealing with and voting for and just like swallowing the medicine basically of the people that we don't actually really like, but are just like incremental changes, and it just sucks. But oh, I got a text message. Yeah, I wish we had room to be a little more I don't know, quick to oust people. I can't think of a word that like actually sums that up with a nice little bow, but I wish we could do that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the term discernment has been co-opted by the right to mean whether or not you understand racism is good.
Yeah.
So you can't really use that anymore. But I think honestly it's going to come down to the like more recent like get behind the left movement stuff. Um,
Mm.
the idea of getting behind left politics, even if you don't fully agree with everything, like I mean, it kind of got shown off pretty well when there were like BLM leaders who were getting like super like fucked with over the fact that they had like it was millions or like up to like $1 billion. I forget exactly what the amount of money was that got like donated into like the overall BLM movement, and the people like a handful of people in like leadership positions had access to that money. um and like I also think that that should be unnecessary if our capitalist jackass system of money equals free speech wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that that got so criticized when the other two parties are literally working with trillions of dollars is kind of like insane. Like it's not a it's just saying like, well, they shouldn't get it because we don't want them to have power, which is like, okay, but they did get it, like, and it's a bunch of poor people giving them money. So like, isn't that exactly what we're supposed to be doing? Like, that's sort of the whole point of putting our power together, is that we get enough money to have ad campaigns and shit like everybody else does, and then we can be an actual party eventually. But apparently that's evil if you do it, if you're on the
Yeah.
left, because the left is supposed to be poor. So, whatever.
Yeah. You're not a true democratic socialist unless you have no money.
Yeah, you have to be in the dirt and let all the people with money keep doing stuff with money. Yeah, it's evil, but like it's fine because they're supposed to. Don't worry about the planet part of it that we have to worry about very actively now.
No, it's
Uh,
fine.
that's what pussies are worried about, who don't have any money to make a bunker. So,
Losers.
God, they're all such losers.
Mm.
Um, anyway, uh, yeah, I don't know what the right's doing. I know that the Tea Party turned into this QAnon bullshit eventually, and Alex Jones and all that kind of stuff really fed off of it. So I'm a little concerned about what the Q Tea Party is gonna be, now that
Yeah.
we're moving into it's not even a scary young black man this time. It's a old Republican. Like they're gonna have to be crazy to the degree that it takes to be like, this old Republican's gonna come get us, and our Republicans aren't gonna save us, so we have to be even weirder. So we'll see. Hopefully it's at least weird enough to where as a society we can look at it and go like, well, that's not good, as opposed to the Tea Party where like I feel like a lot of relatives I knew and stuff were like, I don't know if that's the best route. uh
Mm.
we'll see. I mean, people don't pay attention to anti-abortion rallies where people do some crazy shit either. So
Heinous, awful. Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like one not so great indicator is the fact that we had an election happen and then a good portion of the country just thinks that it was stolen with
yeah,
really no basis for that. And yeah, that seems like that could be a real big problem in the near
yeah.
future.
About a fifth of the country is like just either completely off its shit or in enough support of it to also be like, I would rather we were off our shit. And a fifth of the country's too much by a fair margin.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So we'll see. Uh, it is a little bit. It's frustrating because a lot of the people who are in support of that kind of shit I know are like relatives that are like, well, I like the church. That's cool, but can you not vote to show such big numbers for this thing that's objectively terrible, because like you could abstain, you could look at it critically and just not be an asshole. Like tons of people didn't vote for Biden because he's a rapist, asshole, Republican piece of shit. But like, I see the point in that, and that's not hurting anybody, let's say. But I don't know. I super don't want the left to suddenly get into a position where being principled is a downside too, because then it's just Democrats again.
Yeah, I am really hoping to, in the future, have a party that gives less shits about being civil and just telling the truth, because it's a lot more civil to let like a bunch of people die, or
we need
uncivil. I mean,
we need a bunch of. Well, first off, we need a president that has to be in a room with more people and not like in a fucking castle. If I don't think we should have a president, but if we're gonna have a president, they should have to be subject to the actual people, like the criticism with royalty would be. Like, treat them like actual politicians and not like fucking god kings. And then
and maybe half of our politicians shouldn't have Alzheimer's and be like unimpeachable or like untouchable.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have lifetime appointments, and maybe we should have like strict term limits on all of our politicians, so it actually represents the people and not the oldest generation of whatever state it is, because fucking Mitch McConnell has been voted in so many times. It's
or Nancy Pelosi.
Or Nancy Pelosi. If you support Nancy Pelosi, you're a fucking hack. But,
girl power.
Yeah, girl power. That fucking painting and that clothing store. That's rough.
I love my hashtag girl bosses.
Yeah.
In
we shouldn't talk about all the racist shit RGB did. We should just focus on the fact that she was smart about some things and was one of the 9 most high position lawyers like on the planet. She did some things that weren't scum, so that's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the fact that she could have prevented one of the sitting horrendous villains currently on the court. Not a big deal.
One of
them. Yeah, one of them. Slightly related rabbit trail. I've been listening to a podcast called 5-4. Have you ever heard of this? Listen to it?
I think so.
You would really enjoy it. Anyone else who likes to listen and get mad at things would also enjoy it. Okay. It's about the Supreme Court and how shitty it is and has been for the last multiple decades. So it's very interesting. They actually, I'm trying to think of what the most recent one is. This wasn't the most recent one, but recently I listened to their podcast on qualified immunity and like the legal history of that, which I hear is ending. Maybe.
Who knows? I mean, they were gonna defund the police in wherever the fuck it was, and they took like 10 million of their 300 million or something. It's everything that you hear. Yeah, everything you hear is a like blown up version of whatever it is they're doing. Right. So, but maybe, I don't know, it would be cool. I would love it.
I feel Evan was telling me that was something that was happening, but I have not followed it or heard anything else about it. But that would be really cool if it did. If you want to get real mad, you should listen to their podcast on qualified immunity.
Okay.
Because that is bullshit.
I love qualified immunity and the ability to like murder people and still get paid for it. Things like that are pretty amazing.
You'll get even more mad when you hear where it came from, because it's not good. The podcast is run by three people who are either lawyers or they went to law school.
Yeah.
They're all leftist, and yeah, they all hate hate the Supreme Court. All of their merch, I think, is I think they have T-shirts. They sell T-shirts that just say Antonin Scalia is dead or is in hell or something like that.
Yeah,
which is great. That's the kind of civility I'm looking for in the 2020 era.
Yeah, we need a bunch of 40-year-old assholes yelling at each other in a room instead of everybody getting to like, oh, be quiet. I'm important and I need to say a thing that's racist. Yeah, we have a system that kind of coddles our weird snowflake politicians too much anyway, so being a politician should be the thing that a person in your family does if they're like a fucking annoying piece of shit who believes in things. Like that's who should be going into politics, not just people who are like wanting to exploit power for no reason.
Agreed. Well,
but yeah,
speaking of snowflakes,
5-4 the numbers.
Yes, okay. It's 5-4. I'm assuming that has something to do with a specific decision that they made.
Probably.
I don't know, but it's a real informative podcast because I feel like I tend to forget about the Supreme Court since they don't change that often, but
yeah, it's kind of like the Pope.
Pretty important.
You don't think about the Pope until the Pope switches to another Pope.
Yeah, kind of. Or until they take away your right to abortion, or your right to abortion. Your right to own your own body, I guess.
I got some real spicy pictures for a project I'm working on, including a bunch of people holding "My Body, My Choice" signs with badly drawn masks on them.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
I love that. What they really think they're doing something with that, the "My Body, My Choice" thing and the masks.
Yeah, the same people who definitely want like victims to just, you're pregnant, deal with it. But if it's your body being a slight upgrade of clothing, then oh man, fuck that.
Absolutely not. Yep. But anyway, I was gonna try and segue and say, speaking of snowflakes, how was your Christmas?
Well, it was a lot of talking. I did a bunch of video chats starting Christmas Eve and going until the day after Christmas. Well, yeah, literally the day after Christmas. So that was exhausting.
Yeah, sounds like a lot.
And got to see how many relatives are not very good at doing video chat yet. that was kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
But a lot of my break so far has been pretty like I don't know, low key, I guess. I've been trying to like spend the last 2 weeks of the year absorbed in like cultural things that people got into like a year to 2 years ago to just kind of like see what's up and like check out for a little bit as much as possible anyway. I got some Hawaiian pizza. That's very exciting. I haven't had that like a legit Hawaiian pizza in a while. And I also had tea eggs and a bunch of other bits and pieces for Christmas Day, and that was really good.
I saw a photo of that. That looked like quite the good spread.
So that all worked out pretty well. I watched some bad stuff and some okay stuff. There's some good stuff in there, and I'll talk about some of that. And then I ended up bolstering my snack corner quite a bit with some like stocking care package kind of stuff and some terrible baking mistakes. So that's how mine went. The only time it snowed here was during our last podcast. So it snowed this year. How about yours? What, you ended up in Washington, right?
I did. Yes. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's
I
think
what was your level of safety? I know that was a concern.
Yeah, I would go with not at all.
Yeah, that seems like kind of where it was headed.
As anticipated. It could have been worse. It could have been worse. We stayed, so for everyone listening, I will not expunge. I will tell you all of the COVID sins that occurred. So my family got an Airbnb close to another family member's house, and basically some of us stayed in the Airbnb, and then we would like go over to the house and like have dinner, hang out.
Yeah. So like a
weren't-
normal vacation, basically.
Yeah, basically. Luckily there were no extra outings like for no reason.
That's good.
No one was going anywhere than to like grocery stores.
So at least this vacation was just a gun that you pointed at yourselves.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was. It could have gone worse, but my preference would have been for it not to happen. But unfortunately, I think taking a stand against that and making my own decision there would have resulted in some more detrimental like feelings that would cause discomfort. And
also, I think based on your living situation, it would have been the same risk in the end, unfortunately. So
yes, yeah, we're not exactly I don't know, CDC compliant around here, unfortunately. But yeah, it was obviously like good to see everyone. Nerve-wracking. My grandparents were there and had actually had COVID like a month ago or something.
Did you find out if one of them that thought they had it actually had it?
She thinks she did,
Okay.
but she did not get tested.
Yeah.
So there's really not a way of knowing. Uh, Unfortunately, we also had a death in the family like a couple of days before Christmas.
Okay.
And then many members of the people that went to the Christmas thing proceeded to go to a funeral in Kansas. So
yeah, I
we'll see
can't
how that goes.
imagine. So I had a grandpa that died on Christmas Eve, but there wasn't a pandemic, so it was manageable.
Right.
I don't know how we would handle that this year. I think in my family it would have been a very solo experience, unfortunately. But
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to say too much more about it just to respect everyone's privacy, but
yeah, totally.
It's like I definitely this Christmas am starting to, now that I'm older and have my own opinions, which are very different from most of my family. I'm starting to feel the weight of that difference in these situations.
Yeah.
And so it was a good time, but also it is a little bit like difficult just to feel the minority in that way, I guess.
Yeah. Thankfully, my family's huge, so I will always have at least some people that I agree with.
Yeah.
But I definitely get that feeling. A lot of family that I know I will never see eye to eye with on pretty much anything. And that's just kind of how it is. But
Yeah.
should we move on to snack corner? I feel like
Yes.
we've
We
gone
should
through
do it.
our grieving process. Now we can go to our recovery process of
Exactly.
many foods. Now, if you have something to copy stuff down with, I do have a little update to start it off with. One of my many video chats included my grandma giving me the hot buttered rum recipe
Oh,
for
okay.
the very dangerous version of it. And it's worse than I thought. So here's the very simple recipe. You mix all of these evenly.
Okay.
1 pound of butter, 1 pound of sugar, brown sugar, preferably.
Okay.
1 pound of confectioner's sugar,
Oh.
and then 1 quart of ice cream.
Like vanilla ice cream?
Preferably, it should be French vanilla, and it should be, I think Dryers was the suggestion for mixability and for like the amount of flavor you want.
Okay.
So it is basically just buttercream ice cream, and then you're supposed to add 1 jigger of both rum and brandy to the cup you make. And
Okay.
the amount you use is like 50% boiling water, 50% mix, and then a jigger of each rum and brandy. So good luck, everybody.
Wow. I am ecstatic and very anxious to try this.
I have to wait till my freezer clears out to make any of this.
Yeah, you're good. Wow.
But the fashion I used to get this in whenever I would get it, which is actually only like twice ever, was in a, and it makes sense now, in a butter container. And it was just like put into it and smoothed off and put in there. And it's like the texture when it's all mixed together of like really packed sand. And now I understand why, because it's all sugar and butter. It's like a really thick frosting that you're adding to your drink.
Yes, it is. It is the podcast time. It's Mom Minutes.
Hello. We're discussing desserts.
We're talking about his family's hot buttered rum recipe.
Ah.
It sounds really good.
I bet.
Yeah. Oh, Cat. Cat is here now. Oh, thank you.
Something old and spicy. That's very appropriate for the holidays.
Yes. Cat. Spicy. Okay. Anyway, Mom Minute has concluded.
So here's my drink for the moment. At least the more interesting one. Remixing it a bit. So this is Abuela's hot chocolate with cinnamon and hot pepper in it.
Ooh.
And that's a drink that I like. But here's another drink that I will probably like, and it's Catch Fire Cinnamon Whiskey, which is this week's drink bottle. Let's see if I can get an actual grip on this. I have big kitchen scissors. I'll just cut the top off if I have to.
Yeah, if you must. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
good so far.
ooh, that's some very pleasant. This isn't quite as strong as a Fireball, so
That's good.
It'll probably be a little more palatable for this. Though I haven't been to the store much at all during the holiday part of the year, for obvious reasons, and also because I had food boxes showing up from a church, sort of. But I know the last time I went, which was like maybe 6 weeks ago, they had giant like candy canes, the plastic ones that you put stuff in, and they have like 10 or 15 fireball individuals in it. Yeah, that's also good. I put a lot of pepper in that, so it's nice and spicy as well.
That sounds really good.
And the other part of the fresh section of the snacks is this horrible mistake that I made. This is okay. So it'll be hard to see in any sort of detail yet. It essentially is a very simple spice cake. It's a recipe that I put together. I got a lot of suggestions from people on recipes, but I tend to like baking as a thing that is experiential, I guess. So what I ended up doing was a very dense cake. I would almost classify this as a spice bread, partially because I didn't want it to be too sweet, because the stuff I was going to put on it is insane, which, I mean, you can already see. So it's just marshmallows, because I got a bag a couple months ago of the just marshmallows from Lucky Charms, and then it's a layer. The top frosting is a buttercream. This lighting is going to get funky on me. It's a buttercream with it's a little bit green looking almost, which is the color that it changes. Well, let's see. Will you light this properly? There we go. So you see it's kind of green.
Yeah.
That is because I powdered some of the marshmallows and put it into the buttercream when I made it originally.
Oh.
And then you can see it powders up pretty well in little bits there. The center line, though, so this is just very sweet. The center line is exactly what I'm drinking here, except instead of water, it's butter to make it a buttercream. Some added sugar and a lot of like chili powder to kind of get it a little bit spicier.
Add some spice, yeah.
And then for the liquid component, to get it to the consistency I needed, I just added black coffee. So it has a very rich middle bar, and then the outside is very sweet. But I didn't want the cake to be overly cloying, because that seems like a fucking nightmare with this.
Yeah, it sounds like a good balance of flavors overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd imagine the texture is also very fun.
It's actually, the texture ends up being better than you would think, because the marshmallows do actually soften. Like they are the texture of actual marshmallows right now.
Oh.
Which is crazy, because they didn't melt and they didn't stay their weird, hard, crunchy selves. They feel like an actual marshmallow. So apparently, if you want to rehydrate your marshmallows, you just set them on frosting, and that's enough.
Okay.
But it's yeah, it worked out. The denseness is very like almost like a light cinnamon roll denseness. And then I just like having sort of a spicy chocolate and cereal adornment to it. This is the first I've actually tried the cake itself, so pretty enjoyable. I was a little worried about the texture, but the texture is good too.
It sounds good. The way you describe it is a little bit more dense than a regular cake, like a spice bread. That sounds really nice.
Yeah, it is definitely that. You can even see the color of it is more like a spice bread than it is a regular like white cake or something like that. And then just regular stuff. I also have an ultra fiesta because I didn't want to go hot for everything. So this is maybe one of the worst sounding of the monsters. It's a sugar-free Ultra Fiesta energy drink.
Yeah.
But
Yum.
with that out of the way, I do have some more holiday-based things to go through. So would you like to go over some just snacks you have before that?
Sure, yeah. So I have a pretty light spread this evening. I am finishing off a chai latte. I actually am returning this morning. I returned from Moscow because I was finishing up some final cleaning
Right.
of the apartment, and it ended up going too late, and then we realized that the road was frozen, so we were going to not drive in the middle of the night. So
I guess that's acceptable.
I guess, yeah. It's very fun to stay in your like completely empty apartment with nothing, nothing in it. That
Did
was
you
fun.
did you get to experience the like I'm sleeping on the floor in just a sweater? Because I've done that a few times and it's a real pain in the ass.
Kind of. We actually, so I guess I shouldn't say we roughed it too hard because I did in the closet have like a mattress foam topper thing that
Oh,
is
okay.
about like this thick. So we just put that on the floor and it helped quite a lot, like much better than just sleeping.
That's not too
Um,
bad.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. The only thing I would complain about was the heat problem. It was cold.
Yeah.
We had no blankets or anything. That part I could have remedied a bit, which is funny because I remember having a thought when I was getting ready to drive down yesterday. I looked at my bed and I saw a blanket and I thought, like I had the
There's
thought,
no way I'll need that.
right? Like why? But it entered my brain. I was like, should I bring that? And I might be like mildly what is that even called? I
Psychic.
can yes, psychic, but it's useless because I doubt my own intuition all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, there we are. But
I think
so I
mildly psychic is intuitive. I think that's what that is.
there we go. Intuitive, but also dumb. So
Hey, we're all
that's my
stupid here.
uh well, I have the leftovers of this from my trip. But I also have a Health Aid kombucha mint limeade,
Okay.
which is not bad. I was really hoping for a little, I don't know, something in it tastes a little off. It tastes more like key lime than a mint limeade. It's more
Uh,
like lime vanilla flavored than minty.
so kind of too sweet.
Yeah, it smells. I would describe it as like a key lime, like vanilla
Some
lime.
sometimes like they have vanilla mint. Sometimes I feel like
Mm.
spearmints and some of the like alternative mints kind of make me think of vanilla. But I don't know. I haven't had that flavor.
It's yeah, it's possible that that's what they were going for or something, but um it's good, just different from what I was expecting. But those are my drinks and I returned from Christmas with this. Um
Oh, some Piru cream.
yes. So
What flavor cream are they?
hazelnut.
Oh man, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't be that upset. I do have cake, but like I always want what other people have when it comes to food, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I would love to try the cake, but I will settle for my Piru creams. Um, and these are very good. These were a gift from the portion of the family that hails from Texas. So
Okay.
they brought those, and they're very delicious. Uh-oh,
Uh,
I'm clumsy.
uh, don't throw Puro cream all over the cat.
Might be too late. Hello, cat. He's grumpy. He's ignoring me.
Oh, this is maybe the cake that needs the smallest slices of any cake I've ever had around. Because this slice is like a pretty normal, like, it looks big because it's in front of me, but like it's not a huge slice.
Yeah, it looks like a normal slice.
Let me get that in the middle frame. It's a normal cake slice if you're like not full from other things.
Right.
I've had like 3 bits of it, and I don't know, man. I gotta wait a little longer before I get into this. But it's much better than I expected, and I expected it to be at least decent. These marshmallows I'm happy about, because I don't like these marshmallows on their own. I have a treat that I may break into here. I was threatening my roommate with hiding one of these in the cake, and whoever got it was the lucky one, like a king cake.
Yeah.
Because you really wouldn't be able to tell until you found it, and I think that's sort of the key to grasshoppers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That is the missing ingredient from your cake, for sure.
So it's a Plazita Gourmet. The flavor is Oaxaqueño. I'm going to just go ahead and assume that is a chili spice mixture, because that's what it looks like, at least. Let's see. Yeah, grasshoppers, lemon, salt, garlic, and chili. So, yeah. Just sort of...
I like the seasoning. That sounds good.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've had these as, like, whole grasshoppers.
Yeah.
I remember liking them, though. I haven't ever had this brand, but let's see what we're working with.
I would love to see an individual grasshopper up close.
Oh yeah. I didn't hide any in the cake because I need other people to eat this cake or I'll die trying. And if I hide a fucking grasshopper in it, that's not going to happen for some people, so... in case people are concerned that I wouldn't follow through, I totally would have if I thought I could get away with it.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's just like a really classic, like lime chili kind of thing. So here you can see it doesn't have. Whoop, there we go. I'll put it against my yellow face. So
excellent.
Yeah. It doesn't have any of the parts of the grasshopper that are, heads and feet.
Yeah. Just the crunchy parts.
It's good though. It's very well spiced. They actually left it so that you could taste, like, grasshoppers don't have much taste. But the texture...
goodness for that.
Well, so if you wanted to actually say what a grasshopper tastes like, if you haven't had one, it tastes like hay. It tastes like the smell of hay for like farm animals. That's exactly the flavor. So it's the smell of hay is the flavor, and then whatever you spice it with is the rest. So they're very inoffensive.
Not too bad.
They taste very nostalgic. Like they're very like farm fresh tasting, which I like as like a thing. I could totally see people not liking it, but for me, this is like one of my preferred like small snack flavors. I need to find a bag to actually keep those fresh in, though.
Or a cake to keep them fresh in.
Yes, that would also work. If it got soft, it would be a bummer though, because it.
Nobody wants a soggy grasshopper.
I got a small collection of ramen.
Ooh.
I'll just hold them up.
Nice.
Most people have ramen opinions, so if they see one that they think is cool, like perhaps this Tom Yum.
Ooh, that looks good.
Bizunis, shrimp Tom Yum. into it. Some pad thai action.
Mm-hmm.
And a second shrimp tom yum.
Can't go wrong.
Excited about those. Add those to my little noodle collection. Here's a non-edible Christmas item. I rarely get sweaters or sweatshirts in this case that I find appealing, but this is one.
Wow. I have never seen an article of clothing more fitting.
Yep.
That is amazing.
This is a opossum and raccoon staged version of Aladdin and Jasmine from the Disney movie. But it says, I can show you some trash instead of I can show you the world, which I find to be very appropriate to everything I believe in. This is a weird one, but kind of a fun one. This is just like old-ass Nicktoons stuff.
That's a good one.
But it's an advent calendar of socks.
That's pretty good.
So if, say, you wanted to wear the shirt of Hey Arnold's friend, I guess there's socks for that. I will probably need to give some of these socks away because they are 12 pairs of socks that are basically socks I could only use with like certain situations. So people I know might receive mail that just has surprise. Here's a pair of socks for some reason.
That are cat dog themed.
There are cat dog socks. Over there, I have a can of Spam that I received. I also received a Oreo package with the request that I make a Spam an Oreo burger, which is a real thing. I'm not sure how I'll do that.
Is it specifically mint Oreos and Spam?
No, it's regular Oreos.
Okay. So you're spicing it up a little bit.
Shrimp chips.
Yes.
I'm liking how much images of shrimp I got for Christmas. Here's the Abuelita. I got the individual packets, but there's something else I put in here, which I will probably be trying next week, which is instant boba.
Oh.
So it's a milk tea mix with boba that I guess are freeze-dried and ready to go. So yeah. I'll give that a shot, and we can see if that's decent. I also got some of the OG chocolate frogs.
Nice.
And these are pretty excellent because they look like a smooth chocolate frog, but they are in fact packed full of rice puffs. So they're basically like a what is it, a crisp bar or whatever?
Yeah.
But it's a nice chocolate frog motif.
Huh.
Also got some Canalitas bites, which are like the better Nilla wafers. I got more Duvaline, which also let me in on the fact that apparently Mexico is further along with their labeling than we are, because it has sugar warnings on it now, which apparently it's unconstitutional for us to do because we're assholes. And then I got some individual Jumex, some mango Jumex. I'll probably drink at least one of these on its own, but I feel like I'm going to end up making mixed drinks with these because that's the kind of dirtbag I want to be. This is another thing I might have to hide in socks that I send to people sometimes. I got a fat stack of Canels.
Wow. That's awesome.
I haven't had these in a long time, but they are, if you know what chiclets are, they're basically a nicer flavored brand of chiclets. Do you have to help out that cat? Or is,
I might have to. He's screaming.
melon gummies?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm jealous specifically of those.
Yeah.
Love
and
those
gummies. This is just sort of a one-off.
Oh, a nut patty.
Nut patty. These are good. They're very sturdy. This is maybe one of my favorite versions of tamarind. So these are Palon minis. I think Palon are the same thing, but like a larger form. It's like a push pop where you push up on it, but up here there's a like shower head looking thing, so it puts out strands of it.
Oh.
And the slow method of eating this, I think, is why I like them, because it takes a very small amount of tamarind and makes it into like a process.
That's fun.
And they just taste very good. Now, this is something I've never seen before, and I think it's the last thing that I'm showing off. But I specifically wanted to wait so that I could experience this alongside somebody else. Let me open up the bottom of this, because I feel like it needs to be released to be understood. Okay, it looks like they have some individually wrapped qualities if they're not actually wrapped individually. So these are labeled as being lollipops. I would maybe contest that a little bit, because they are very thin and very long.
Is that the stick at the end? Is there one?
Here's the entirety of the stick. Here's the lollipop part. They are called slaps.
That's awesome.
They do have some slappability. That's true.
I think I actually just recently saw a video of somebody like using those, or maybe doing a similar homemade version of it, but assembling it into like a bigger snack on a stick. Like this person had fruit and like what's that like sour and spicy seasoning. I can't think
Sweet
of it right.
Sour? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's tahini.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's not really sour, but yeah, like they were putting fruit like mango and tahini and wrapping it in one of those and eating it on the stick.
That sounds potentially awesome. I need to look up if there are like known uses for these, because they're soft enough to where I could see it being a really good, like almost a fruit leather, but not. Oh, I'm excited about it though, because I've literally never seen those.
Yeah, I saw just that video, and I had never seen anything like that before, but it seems like the thing that people do is use it to mold it into like a pocket for other foods, or at least that person was doing it.
I needed to mix this because I just hit a just spice pocket, which was very pleasant.
Ooh.
It might cause some issue if I'm trying to take a sip in the middle of talking about something, and then I'm like, yeah. So lots of good stuff. Excited about those slaps. Excited about all these shrimp things. Looking forward to just all of it.
There's a lot to look forward to there.
I still have chunks of my old care package that I shared with people in this bag, so like there's still stuff going on.
Okay, I hear your pleas.
You might want to help that.
I must.
That spicy baby.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh. Thank you. Someone did it for me. The baby was too spicy.
That'll happen. I also received, this is also not food related, but kind of is. I received a board game about food. So
Ooh.
now I can gamify eating even further. It's called Festo, which seems like a nickname I would have gotten at some point in my life. So I'm excited to see what that's all about.
Excellent. That looks fun.
And then I got the requisite weird, not weird, the least weird candies from our friend who is much more of a candies classic kind of person, like the things that you associate with like kid Christmas.
Is that are those sixlets?
Yeah, there were sixlets in there.
Nice. Very good. You've got quite the haul.
Yeah, I got a lot of crap over here. And that concludes, I think, my Christmas roundup. I also got a plant to add to my small plants.
That's a fun one.
During quarantine. Very insistent that I refer to it as alien fingies, but they are called baby toes, and I dislike both names, so I will just ignore them.
I like alien fingies.
Yeah. So I think most of the rest of my yelling about things is going to be about movies. So I think we should probably talk about something that you have going on. Or if you watched anything other than your family do questionable distancing.
Yes, I did. I've been kind of debating whether or not to talk about this on the pod.
Why?
I don't know.
Too good?
I think I will tell you separately another time, and I will debate in my own head whether or not this is something I would like to share about about my family, and then I maybe when I've had some time to think about it, I will share it. But I do need to tell you because I think you'll not enjoy it, but have a similar reaction. But
they've started spitting into each other's mouths, haven't they? It's good to see you.
Yeah, Christmas was actually just sitting around the tree with like spitball straws.
Spitball straws trying to like
catch it in our mouths, pretty much. Yeah.
You were hungry hippos.
Yeah, basically. I did not watch anything other than the thing that I'll talk about possibly at a later time.
Okay. I'm excited for it now that it's a thing you watch, because now I'm starting to get an idea of how that goes. So
I think you're
right.
Have a vague idea of what it is, but
you're right. I would like to talk about this later.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. But outside of that, I haven't watched much.
Okay.
My Christmas was I don't know, it felt very like fast and weird because I spent most of the time in the car. And then we were there for like a day and then we drove back. So
it sounds like you've had a very phone looking and movement based week, which is maybe
podcasts. Yeah,
maybe the hardest kind of week to sum up in any sort of like interesting way.
Right, which was why the other topic that I had was also something also based on something that had just happened to me yesterday, because not much has happened in the last week. So as I was cleaning out my apartment, I went and got the mail.
You found the gun?
The gun. I found the gun. And then I got the mail, and then I received a notice from the IRS saying that I owe them a very large amount of money and that they're going to come, like, seize my property
Well,
and
good
take
luck
it
with
away
that.
from
But
me.
what would you possibly owe them money for?
So here's a fun adventure of how taxes are stupid and how
Uh-huh.
Madison is also stupid, not good at navigating these things, and I shouldn't be in charge of doing this. Um, so I got TurboTax. I have TurboTax like to do my taxes, have for the last since I've been paying taxes.
Right.
Um, and as I was filing them, filed for an extension, but I was doing them very late, so it was like the day before the deadline, of course, because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Filed for an extension. Um, that seemed fine. And then the day after the deadline, I looked and saw that my extension was like denied.
Oh.
But part of
Well.
yeah, fun things. But part of when you file for an extension with TurboTax is that you just pay like some good chunk of whatever you're gonna owe,
Yeah.
just to be like some of it's taken care of. So I did that, except for since it was denied, a bunch of the money didn't go through. But
Okay.
TurboTax, for some reason, counted it as having been paid. So after the deadline, when I was trying to pay the part that was denied and also the remainder that I owed, I could only pay the remainder through TurboTax because it was thinking that I had already paid a significant chunk of it.
Huh.
So that was something I like could not get help from TurboTax about. I don't know why. There's just not a lot of recourse for that. Um, and I ended up later just going through the IRS website where you can just go directly and pay and like
Yeah.
make a payment. So I did that. And I got a confirmation email that I had done it, and the money was taken out of my bank account in August, and now I guess somehow it's not paid still. And this is the first I've heard of it.
That
Uh,
sounds like the reverse version of duplicating loans, where you probably have two different
yeah,
like statuses now sitting there.
yeah, probably. It's just like I know that they received the payment, just for some reason the IRS has not like attached the payment to the thing, to
Yeah.
like the me, I guess, that exists. So, this is kind of fun. I'm
That
already
is kind of fun.
kind of fun, little adds a little spice to your everyday. Ooh, I get a letter in the mail that's like, we're gonna come
Is
seize
this
your
from
assets.
the IRS?
And I'm like, oh, great. Well, I have exactly no assets, so I guess you can take my Subaru that
Uh,
that's like being recalled for the airbag not working. Like, have fun, but
uh, I've
so I
got a
gotta take care of that.
letter from GSS Data Services LLC like months ago that's just like, hey, there's a thing in something attached to you that we're attached to, and here's all the ways that we're allowed to use your data now. That's what the letter is. That's all it is. It's
Oh,
just like,
cool.
hey, we have all your data and we're allowed to, and we had to send you this letter to let you know that. So it's probably not the best that we can do this. Also, whatever. Bye.
I, yeah, I just there. I have so many levels of frustration with this. First of all, I don't like that I have to do this.
Yeah.
Just as my own thing. I know that I
You
know that
literally paid somebody to do it for you so you wouldn't have to.
yes, I paid the TurboTax thing to think about it so that I would not have to think about it. All I have to do is put in the information and guess to the best of my ability how much I'm right, and then the government tells me, "Did you guess right or not?" And then
Right.
if I didn't, I go to jail, I guess. I think that's how it works. So apparently I'm on the precipice of maybe going to jail. Not really, but it's really irritating to me that this is all transpiring through the mail.
Yep.
and not digitally in 2020? Like, why could I not pay it online and it instantly be done and over, but instead I have to get a physical letter? Like, everything about the way this works is so inconvenient, because I was trying to uh, when you go to set up your IRS account, which now I know is like different from me filing through
Yeah.
TurboTax, I guess. Um, they send you a physical letter with an activation code like 10 days after you make the account. So you can't even use your account when you're going to make it. And so I went to go log into my account, but of course I don't know the password anymore. So I had to reset the password, and I did that, but I can't use the account because apparently, like 5 months ago, I got a letter in the mail with an activation code, and God knows what I did with it, but I didn't actually finish setting up my account. Anyway, this should not be a problem.
I've never owed IRS money just because of the nature of the work that I do, and I have never gotten harassed by them for anything because it would mean that they had to give me something. And I think that's telling of the people I know that have been contacted by the IRS. It's never people who are like, oh, well, like, I don't know how to get this rebate. I guess I'll ask them how to do it. They just never talk to you. But if you have something that's like $1 less than what they want, you will hear from the IRS. Absolutely.
Right. And I mean, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but it's just like it's already there. I've already paid it. You just haven't put the thing together, which I don't know. Everything about the way we do government and bureaucracy is incredibly inconvenient on purpose, especially when it comes to taxes.
I think taxes are even worse for that in some ways because
Yeah.
a lot of individual companies don't want to do it. Like my friend who got real hard reamed by the IRS, it was literally because they won a t-shirt contest online.
Seriously?
And that t-shirt contest was for the prize of getting like free printed t-shirts that you could have on that site would sell off. And from what they told me, they basically like they just didn't think about it because they submitted a design, it won, that t-shirt got printed off in order to sell, and people bought it, but like that money kind of came to them in their bank account without them even really realizing it. Because like a lot of that stuff, like you make sales of stuff and like it gets deposited, but unless you're like either right on the edge of no money or like have other people watching your money because you have so much of it, you might not ever know. Like if you're just sitting with some level of comfort, like
it's
unless
easy
you're
to miss.
unless you're in your bank account, you're not going to see it. And you know, for people like me, I check through all of my transactions online constantly, so I would see it, but I understand how you wouldn't. And I think they got a letter saying that they had to give them like $3,000 right away, and like that's an upsetting thing to receive when your wages are not going to cover it on like a monthly basis.
Yeah, especially when they say, "Hey, well, like, here's your notice date, the day that we're sending it."
Yeah.
And you have 30 days from that day. But also, if you try and go into your account and activate it, you're gonna have to wait like 10 more days for us to send you a code through the mail. And then by then, who knows? You might be fucked, I guess. Like, very stupid. Also, very frustrating to know that me, a person, like a freelance person who lives fine, but I'm not balling. Like, I why am I spending so much of my time and my mental energy stressing about this when uh, some some of us don't pay any taxes?
Well, I had
at
been
all.
seeing you on this camera thinking that you're staying at your parents' house, but apparently your parents are staying in your villa. So,
Oh yeah.
I guess that was my misinterpretation. So I understand why they're coming after you for the money so quickly, but
I do like to winter in Florida and summer in Idaho. Right now, I'm in the Florida state. Uh, some you might be familiar. It's called Mar-a-Lago.
mm,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
this year I actually I summered in my room and I wintered in the front room. So I get what you mean.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to winter in the kitchen and summer in the bedroom. That's
Yeah.
usually my arrangement.
Party in the
So,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of it explains why the IRS is after me and my measly like $2,300 or whatever
Yeah.
that I've already paid them. Like whatever. I will acknowledge that of a good portion of this is my own doing.
Sure.
but but it should be easier than this.
It
I
should at least
will.
be clear. If we didn't
Yeah.
have weird strings to pull on everything for a million different places, I think it would be pretty simple to just give money to the government. But, you know,
And if I feel like if we were taxing people at uh actually um the rates that made sense and didn't make it allowed for them to just like not participate, we
yep,
wouldn't have to have such stringent and scary and fucking annoying ways of dealing with people who make like less than, I don't know, $60,000 a year. Like,
yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it would be nice
stupid.
if responsibility was actually something that affected the rich, but it isn't really.
Yeah.
The more you own and the more money you have, the less responsible you have to be, which seems like the opposite of what it should be. But, you know,
One would think, but
speaking of the opposite of what it should be, though, um, I did watch The Rise of Skywalker.
yay.
And, oh boy,
That is really the opposite of what it should be, huh?
oh, that I'm not even like a big stickler on like what you do with your storylines in sci-fi, let alone Star Wars, but oh man, was that a terrible movie. So just for reference, I over the completely devoid of Christmas stuff, I watched like 3 or 4 Christmas movies in the time that since we had talked about it specifically, but just for like basically the time between video calls for the middle of the week this week, I watched uh, well, over a little longer than that, I watched all of the second season of The Mandalorian because I got access to a friend's Disney Plus. I got to watch the new or the newest Wonder Woman 84, and I watched The Rise of Skywalker, and The Rise of Skywalker felt like a break in the middle where I was just watching like some weird like alternate universe version of what people decided to do with that movie.
Uh-huh.
So you watched it a year ago, correct?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yes.
what what do you remember most vividly from that movie?
Um, I remember uh probably the most vivid picture in my head I have from that movie is Chewie not dying in a explosion.
Yeah, that definitely was that definitely happened, though it was not memorable in the movie sense.
Yeah. it's very memorable to me as a moment where something didn't happen, but it probably should have, to have to propel some semblance of a story or something happening. But
Oh, you were
you
looking
know,
for emotional resonance and consequences. Yeah,
yeah.
that would make sense. And I think it's just very shallow to use character deaths as a way of just drumming up some sort of emotion for something that doesn't need to be there. More on that later, I guess. So I wrote down pros and cons on this thing. Here's the pros section.
Oh, good.
Uh,
I'll
so
explore the right.
pros, just right off the bat, I like the puppets that there are. Most of the puppets are computer. Even later in the movie, some of the puppets are now computer stuff, which was weird. um, Leia was less bad than I expected. The way that they used a completely posthumous version of Carrie Fisher in that movie was not terrible.
Yeah.
The story beats were terrible, but her specific acting in the small amount of scenes she was in were fine. If it's called acting for that, I don't know. And then the third pro, which is debatable, is that the stormtroopers in Rise of Skywalker have more restraint and responsibility than our cops in the U.S. There's many times at which they see people who are literally in an opposing side of a war, and they hold them up, and they like fire warning shots. They like use their words to try and like stop people
What a
before
concept.
they shoot.
Yeah.
It's frustrating that I even have to consider that when watching Star Wars, but it's also like it wasn't until at least halfway through the movie where it was showing some scenes with them like fighting in actual like weird war stuff, fake space war or not, and just being like more responsible. And that
A little depressing.
and then that's it. That's the pro column. The pacing was terrible from start to finish. I remember talking about this with you. The montage of just dumb shit that Kylo Ren is doing at the beginning is awful. It's like the movie starts off with slow motion scenes of him like fighting in the woods to like get an artifact.
Oh, yeah.
That was terrible. Like, and I'm not saying this just to be like contrarian. Those scenes looked like a much, much worse series. Like it looked like a scene that would be at the start of like a Babylon 5 episode, not a scene that would be in a major Star Wars movie. Unless, you do a new giant Star Wars movie every 2 years, which was a bad idea from the start. But let me break into this Ultra Fiesta. Oh, boy!
It's like a party in your mouth.
It tastes like suntan lotion with somebody melted the pineapple version of these into.
Oh.
That's that's something.
Quite the party.
Yeah, it's a fiesta over here. That whole beginning section was very bad. I know that Star Wars always does its weird, like, either is kind of racist or on the cusp of it stuff with their, like, locational, like, we didn't feel like making up a whole society, and we thought it'd be more fun if they were just a pastiche of an actual society on Earth. And they didn't have anything as bad as the Trade Federation stuff, where it's just like weird like Chinese stereotypes or things like that. What they did have was an entire planet that seemed to be India, kind of.
Oh,
Except,
like the carnival
yeah,
thing.
except
Yeah.
uh, they were basically having like a Diwali festival, and all the people were like brown tapers, and it was just enough to be like, I'm not super comfortable with them wearing what they're wearing and looking like an animal version of a cartoon of Indian people. Like it I'm not trying to read too much into it. I understand like everybody takes ideas from things and makes them into something. It's
Yeah.
that they had like 3 or 4 features that are specifically Indian or like Pakistani instead of actually uh, at least borrowing from different places. It's kind of in the way that like you could deal with the Na'vi and Avatar having a literal like lift of um, an African tribe's like mannerisms and speech because they also tried to like shove some Native American and stuff in there. So you could kind of be like, okay, it's not all like stealing from this one culture. It's
Right,
a
they're trying
set
to
of ideas.
be original at
Yeah.
least a little bit, yeah.
That planet didn't feel like that to me necessarily.
Mm.
The plot was an action movie, which I didn't really expect.
Yeah.
They had like they had bits that were slowed down a little bit, but honestly, there were not any more slow parts in that movie by the pacing than there are in like a Steven Seagal movie. Like it was just there was no spot where I felt like they were setting up a scene. It was all hey, what's the next thing we gotta do or we die? And that's not a space opera is not the place where you get that feeling. It's literally supposed to linger on stuff a little bit.
Right. Have,
Um,
some sort of character building or
yeah.
relationship establishment. Things like that are kind of important
And then
sometimes.
speaking of relationships, they made sure to scuttle every idea of that stuff that made any sense to like the viewers. And they brought in Felicity to be a love/non-love interest for Poe.
Because
Basically,
he's not gay.
yeah, they brought in Felicity to be Poe's beard for this
Yeah.
movie, and then they made a second Finn. They just cribbed another one, but made sure it was female so that he had somebody who was his race to hang out with, which I also felt was really shitty because they already had a person that was clearly the like potential
yes.
like love interest if you're going to do that, and they relegated Rose to following around behind whoever was the acting admiral and just like looking over their shoulder and being like, here's some information about the movie. It was her and like Mary from Lord of the Rings were following around the admiral at all times. Which is sort of a bummer role to get because I like him in stuff, but he literally was just like, hey, I have a beard in this and I'm I don't know, I'm a rebel who stands here sometimes.
Yeah, it is real disservice to all like not characters who are not Kylo Ren or Rey, and I mean they got shafted in their own way, but all of the Rose Tico's, poor Finn and Poe really just get totally written off. I would love to know the actual comparison of screen time between the 8th and the 9th episodes.
Oh yeah.
Especially for Rose, because she had like an actual story. I believe the 8th movie almost starts with her and dealing with her backstory or something.
The 8th movie starts with Rose's sister as the setup.
Right, yeah.
And then Rose like takes Poe shows up to that scene, but Rose takes the scene to the story. So it's literally like Rose and her sister are how that movie gets started. And it's like already in a chase scene that runs through most of the movie that Rose is a part of. That middle movie like really fucked up in a lot of places already, but had promise, and like everything that was interesting is gone. The fucking the Knights of Ren are the worst version of that I could have imagined. The coolest thing that the Knights of Ren do is in a scene in the weird montage in like the second montage set, there's a puppet that just is a chimpanzee with a like helmet on like them working on stuff. That's the most interesting thing the Knights of Ren have. Their only job is to stand and like look around walls and corners when people are doing stuff. That's it. That's all they do in that. They punch Kylo Ren when he's been benefied. And that's like the grand total of their like interaction with people.
Yeah, a real shift from what was supposed to happen in the previous movies.
This movie should have been, if they wanted to do this, which I don't think they should have, evidenced by the fact that this movie starts with a Fortnite reference. The prologue to this movie was in Fortnite only. And after the Fortnite event, The Dead Speaks was the thing, and that moves into the beginning of the title crawl of this. In Fortnite, you literally went and found that the Emperor was still alive and got his like his motivation. Like they put in a not just a video game, but a popular and very bad video game is where they put the interstitial chapter between episode 8 and 9.
Great.
And then they started it in progress in the 9th movie, which, say what you want about the 8th movie, it's way worse than the 8th movie.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, so I tried to figure out what their logic would be for the knife. The MacGuffin knife.
Yeah.
So there's a knife. Here's what the knife is in the world. The knife is a map. The knife is a carving to be a relief print of a broken starship sitting in a random place in the desert, or a random place on an ocean world.
On like an ocean side or something, yeah.
The knife is the murder weapon of Rey's parents.
Oh, really?
Knife,
I didn't remember.
Yeah. So in the scene where her dad is stabbed, it's the knife, and it's already carved. The knife is hidden inside of a tunnel under the sand, next to, like, it's hidden in the tunnel of an animal that is, I guess, not migratory, but like it's got like worm tunnels basically under the sand, which means they're just playing on the idea that it's just straight up fate. Like everything in the universe is just like, it's not that the Force is like a thing that generally like tries to lead you in a direction. It's just setting up things to make sure you do what you need to, which isn't the Force. The Force is supposed to be, at least as it's shown in the like original movies, the Force is a thing that's like you connecting with like the world and nature. This one, it's a religious thing. Like that is a fate setup where it's like, well, I knew you wouldn't do this. Like that's a completely different logic set. And in this one, it's literally Rey runs through the desert, slips into some quicksand, falls into an animal nest, heals a giant worm monster, finds a knife buried in the wall of a tunnel of an animal. That knife has a relief print and a little pointer that pulls out the side that shows you where a necessary like star map is to find the Emperor's planet that's not listed on maps. I don't know why that matters, because apparently like there's no way to see a planet. The like it's not the it's not showing the Star Destroyer's like exterior. It's showing the wreckage of it. So from the cliffside that they see the Star Destroyer from in the ocean, it's the broken side of it.
Right.
And it's supposed to be from the First War, which means that knife was forged with the specific purpose of coming back to that cliffside and looking at that wreckage.
Standing in that exact location. Yeah.
And the only person who would have made that knife is the Emperor. So it's literally this knife that is like just tossed out to like make sure people get there, because like full spoilers on this, the Emperor's whole plan is to get Rey, who is his granddaughter, to go see him on his hidden planet that's covered in Death Stars. Not Death Stars, Star Destroyers, but they're all sitting under the ocean of this planet. Different ocean of a different planet. Also, I forget the name of that planet, but it's a very like...
It's Exegol, I think.
Exegol, yeah. It's very like exegesis. Like it's a little bit on the nose. The plan is to get Rey to find the knife, to find him... Well, to find the knife, to find the map, to find him, to come and try to kill him, I guess, because then he can put his spirit into hers. But in the description, he is saying that every Sith throughout time has just been him going from Sith to Sith. So it's like setting up that he's evil, but the way that he's describing it would mean that literally every Sith has been Palpatine the whole time, which is also like that's not a storyline. Like there's so much that's not that that if you're a Star Wars fan at all, I can't believe you would sit and watch that scene and go like, oh, interesting take. The plan then becomes to sap the life out of her and Kylo Ren / Kylo Ben, I guess.
Kylo Ben.
But only if Kylo Ben becomes good, which only happens because Rey beats him and then fixes him at the place where the knife told her to go. And apparently once you get resurrected, or once he didn't die there, but he got healed from a mortal wound, and then Ghost...
Oh, well, he also got some very special, like, long-distance phone call whisperings from Mommy Organa.
Yeah, he got Leia messages, and then Ghost Solo shows up to be like, "Hey, kid," and I guess tell him that he has to go kill himself now, because that seems to already be known as well. Because he's like, "Well, you know what you gotta do.
You can't possibly live and be redeemed from all." Which, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But I have so much more to complain about than that. Anyway.
Also, like, this is just storyline stuff, but keep in mind that every single second of this fucking storyline is over the course of 2.5 hours of them just, like, slapping ass, never stopping. We need to be, like, running in a direction for this to work. They also make the Mexican guy a drug dealer, which Poe didn't need to be a drug dealer. It's fine. He can just be he could be a smuggler, a regular ass smuggler. He can be anything.
He said. Yeah, like he said that And the fact that he was a drug dealer is like not even a. It's not even a point of anything. Like he reveals that about himself, and they're all like, "Oh, cool!" Like no one cares.
Well, they give him shit about it, but not
For
very
like
much.
for like 5 minutes, and then no one cares anymore.
They also, his beard that shows up is Felicity from the show Felicity. It's annoying because you only ever see her eyes and her helmet, and it's very obvious who it is. But it's just like, I don't need this character to exist to like be fulfilled with this movie.
Yeah.
Her only purpose is to be somebody that he's trying to get back with, and she knows a Muppet that is gonna bypass the laws of roboism to like get C-3PO to tell them about Sith stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole other leg of the journey that they added in there. The fact that for some just bullshit reason C-3PO can't like say a language out loud.
Yeah, he was outlawed from saying Sith, but he knows Sith.
Cool.
So he saw something that got deleted that had Sith language on it. Anyway, I also wrote down good puppets before Babu Frick showed up because Babu Frick is not a good puppet.
Which one is that?
It's the little puppet with like wires, and he's just like he says words kind of, but barely.
Yeah.
And
I could leave those.
He's very much a like they show the puffins briefly, like the weird island puffins in this, but he's an island puffin essentially in terms of his point in the story. He's an engineer who doesn't care very much about robots. There's your punchline, I guess.
Cool. Yeah.
And when Felicity shows up in a spaceship at the conclusion, Babu Frick's just in the ship with her, and he's like, like, it's very, very annoying. So that's the basic story, which is a bummer because it shouldn't be. They kill the Emperor by doing the exact same thing that Samuel L. Jackson did, but it works this time. Which is also like, why?
Which is what they kind of revert the entire series to with this movie. It's basically all of the previous movies, but it actually works this time because that's literally what I don't know the numbers or the names, but that's literally what Vader did or what Anakin was supposed to do was kill Palpatine. But I guess it didn't work. So it works this time though.
It's like we're supposed to believe because Palpatine evaporated this time, they win.
Because it totally didn't evaporate last time the Death Star imploded.
Last time he was thrown down an electricity shaft into an exploding Death Star into space. So, like, it's the same shit. But I guess that doesn't matter. Very bad movie. There's so many things that I can talk about that it's actually kind of overwhelming to get to it all. I do like the actor who plays the Emperor, and I like that he's such a dickwad through the whole set of scenes that he's in. I like that when he does magic hands at them and gets their energy, that his eyes start glowing yellow, and he's like, yeah! I like that he's like being the most overblown, like musical style diva jackass you could possibly be. Mm-hmm. I don't know what his plan was when he decided to shoot electricity into the sky, because he also was like bringing down all of his own ships. Also, if he could just shoot giant streams of electricity that destroy everything around him forever, why would he ever not do that?
Good point.
I really enjoyed that a bunch of Jedi ghosts speak down from the heavens into Rey's ears to like get her to stand up and do what she's got to do. And one of them was Freddie Prinze Jr. I like that because I guess he's in a cartoon, but at the same time, it's just like, why is Freddie Prinze Jr. here? I want to say another one might have been like Rosario Dawson, even. Like it was a set of people who are like once and future Star Wars actors for things that are in that scene as voices only. Also, they really push the idea of what a Force ghost is. Because before it felt very much like, well, you disappear and then you kind of get to be like incorporeal, but you can like communicate with people and you're like part of the natural world, so you just can show up. Right. Now you're just alive still. And also Han Solo can do it.
But he's not blue and glowy because he's not special enough.
He's just a dude standing there who's dead. But like Rey is trying to like seal herself away from everything to like keep herself from having a chance to be like a Sith Lord or whatever at a point. And she goes to throw the lightsaber she's holding into a fire, and Luke catches it and like brings it back to her as a ghost. He's like, here, check this out. And he like does stuff. He's just a hanging out ghost. Like it's really off-putting after seeing all of these like seemed like rules they were establishing for ghost stuff.
Well, and that scene was was even more cheap just because they were doing it as the punchline to the previous scene where he like tosses the lightsaber and is like, meh.
Yeah.
Stupid. They
also I thought their face duping stuff was fine. So I guess some spoiler alert stuff for Mandalorian, but not much. They do some face duping for some character stuff in that, and it's also fine. We're not to the point where we should be doing that willy-nilly, though, because it's not good. I don't know that I want it to be good, though.
Yeah, like, that would be terrible.
I would prefer if it could stay not as good, because like some of the people who do it on the internet can just like make Obama say stuff that he never said, and that's impressive, but also maybe not the best use of our time, as we have a lot of priorities to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you're a Star Wars fan and you like this movie, you're not wrong, but you do have a different idea of what Star Wars is than I do. Which is to say, well written, at least at the beginning. But that's been getting broken down since the going back to the prequels. Like those started bad, and I thought it was at least going to get a little better when they did Episode 7. It was like, okay, I can see where they're going, but it's not. It's kind of it's maybe worse at the end of this than it was at the end of the trilogy, which is really saying something.
Yeah.
And the amount of spin-offs that we went over last week of like stuff they're doing, like this is not going to change in the near future. It's going to get more garbled. So, you know, I will say after watching the second season of The Mandalorian, I still like that show. The seasons are about equal. They're both as good as the other, but I appreciated that they did have a stinger at the end of this season that basically said, hey, next show we do is not this. This is done, at least for now. And that was cool because they need to like do limited runs if they're going to try and like make them look and act like a movie like they've been doing.
Right.
The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 is the best trilogy of Star Wars movies since the original. And it's, I don't know. I guess it's fitting that the thing that's sort of the trashy version of Star Wars is the thing that I think they should be doing. But they even pumped it full of like cameos and stuff, and I think that still worked okay, which is abnormal for a lot of that kind of stuff.
In the Mandalorian.
Yeah, why does the Emperor have the dragon throne? Why was that necessary?
Because he's the big bad guy, you know?
His back is attached to a robo arm. He can't even
GLaDOS
sit in it.
By the end of the movie.
He's got a thing hanging down. He's like hooked to it, and it just moves him around. The whole movie, that's how he's like set up. Why does he need a big throne?
Yeah, also, I think at some point it's implied that... So he's created a bunch of clones of Snoke.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of implied that he, like, survived all this time by, like, cloning himself. Or that maybe his, like, spirit kind of... Like, he kind of died in the Death Star, but his spirit or whatever spooky stuff kind of just inhabited other things and reincarnated to his own body. I have no idea, but where was I going with this? I just don't no, I don't understand.
He's also melted the way that he was melted when he was in episode 3, though.
Yeah.
So there would... the only reason he would look like that is if he was the same one episode 3.
Unless when you, like, reincarnate to your own body, somehow it just doesn't get better.
Or maybe even better if every time he got into a body, he melted himself to look like he used to look in episode 3.
Maybe. Yeah. That could be it.
I guess. Also, we never see what the like hooded creatures that hang out with him and make all his stuff are. But I assume they're Snokes. I don't know. Because all they show tanks full of Snokes when they get there that are just kind of mashed up together like in a tank, like, hey, I'm Snokes.
Yeah.
But, like, they never show another option of a Snoke, and Snoke doesn't look like the Emperor, so... And, like, all of the things that are on that planet hanging out with him just look like evil Jawas that are more people-shaped. Like, they're just cloaks. They don't have anything going on. But somehow he has, like, entire armadas of stormtroopers, kind of.
Yeah.
Which also makes no sense, because they go up to those stormtroopers in those ships, and they're, like, speaking their weird British stormtroopery stuff. So, like, I don't know how that happened either, unless it's just been, like, it's just him and a fuck ton of stormtroopers having an orgy on that planet for decades to get enough stormtroopers to put into those ships.
I guess that's what's going on. Also, if he has access to all of that, like, why does he need any of the rest of any of it? Yeah. If you have a Star Destroyer fleet, like, that's that gigantic, and I think it was J.J. Abrams who directed the last one.
Yeah.
He goes to such lengths to make everything, like, the biggest, baddest, most exaggerated version of the thing that it can be. So of course this fleet is, like, never ending.
Yeah, and it's just a carpet of Star Destroyers.
Yeah. It's like, wow, if this existed the whole time and they're all inhabited by clones, like, why do you need Rey or any of those people? It doesn't really make sense. What do you think about the big reveal? I say this, I just realized, like, rewatching some old videos of people reacting to this, that they actually just spoiled this, like, in the trailer. They basically revealed that she was, like, didn't really say it, but heavily implied that Rey is a Palpatine. Yeah. How do you feel about that revelation?
I think that when you literally just lie to the audience, differently in both movies. It's hard to give a shit when they say like, well, those other things we told you are fakes. Like I don't know why that's actually like supposed to be impactful, because anybody who was like getting news delivered that way in the first place would just be tired of it. I guess they're counting on us being so into Star Wars that it'll be exciting. But they do the same thing. That is exactly the smile for it. They do the same thing when it's the end and like some old lady in the desert's like, "Who are you?" And then she's like, I'm
Rey
Rey
Star Wars.
Skywalker." And that's the end of the movie. Her with a sun silhouetting her, and BB-8 with a sun silhouetting them.
God damn it.
That's how the movie ends, with her being a Skywalker now.
Oh, but she has a yellow lightsaber, because we all need to know what color lightsaber Rey is going to have. That's important that we get that for merch possibilities.
That part upset my nerd sensibilities, because I liked using the yellow saber option in old Star Wars video games, because it was a neat like saber color.
Yeah.
And giving one to her is like kind of the first one you've seen. Like I got Mace Windu having a purple saber. It's like almost, it was on that weird Star Wars cusp of like, is this racist? But also like it was interesting. Like Mace Windu was so flat as a character in his like motivations that having something like that made him more interesting. Rey is not interesting in any fashion, so giving her something like that at the very end doesn't really have any impact.
Giving her an extra "you're the chosen one" vibe.
Yeah.
And they stole everything interesting about her from her in like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Like it actually, all the weird speculation of like Rey's a robot, or Rey's like Rey's actually like somebody completely unrelated's kid, or like all these ideas, they somehow went with the worst idea. Like
really?
making her a Palpatine and undoing everything from the second movie, where literally the coolest thing about the second movie in this series is it goes at length to say, actually, all of the bloodline stuff is bullshit, and anybody could end up being a Jedi or a Sith. It's just a matter of your personal choices, and like if you are in tune with your surroundings. And then, you know, they show some random kid using the Force probably to pick up a broom at the end, and it's like, oh, that's a neat, that's almost like a Into the Spider-Verse kind of ending of like, you just have to be committed to something. Like that's where you get your ability from.
Yeah.
And the end of the whole movie of this one is like bordering on blood libel. Like, no, it's bloodlines, and if you don't have bloodlines that are pure, you're not going to get that dank shit. And also, she's in with the evil guy who's way more powerful than he's ever been in this movie for some reason than any other movie. And she's way more powerful in this movie than anybody else in any other movie except for him. So, like, it's all who you're related to, and that's it. They even make a point of showing in a scene that Leia was beating Luke in their, like, post-original trilogy storyline in terms of, like, being a Jedi.
Right.
Which is also really weird because, like, not that you have any sort of reason to believe either is better, but everything, including extended universe stuff, was always like Luke and Leia are the examples of like different paths with the Force, where one is like very sensitive to everything and can kind of like almost be omnipotent in some things, and the other is just like very like able to use the Force to move around, but like mostly kind of like just a normal person otherwise. And that was interesting, but then using that to show that she was better, and then using that to be like, see, now this is why Kylo Ben is better, is like, okay, so it's just the two bloodlines, the best of them fighting each other, and then they get together to fight the evil wizard at the end. Like, and their version of getting together to fight, to be clear, is they both lose instantly. One of them's thrown over a cliff. The other one kind of wins and then dies. And then the other one comes back, has incredibly unearned romance with the other to bring them back to life. And then they kiss. And then the one that brought the other back to life dies. That whole part was the worst too, because
the dumbest.
If anything, they had a sibling vibe. Like, if anything, and that was supported by the entire storyline up until this movie, was like, I don't know, she's probably a Skywalker, but like maybe not, and that would be cool. And then they turned it into, no, we just switched them.
Yeah. In Jenny Nicholson's video where she's talking about this, one thing she says is like they tried to make them like the space Hatfields and McCoys, but they kind of failed in that too, because it like the dynamic between the Palpatine line, I guess, and the Skywalker line, I guess, like that doesn't even really exist because it's just Palpatine, and then this like skipped generation, I guess, of expendable parents, and then it's Rey, I guess.
So, who fucked Palpatine when
I know!
he was already a fucking gnarled wizard ghost?
These are the big questions, because clearly someone did.
Yeah. And not only someone did, but somebody was okay enough with him to raise a kid well enough to have them have a loving relationship in which they were not bad people from what we see, and have another kid and then have those people wiped out. So he had a normal family at some point. Which is bonkers to think about.
Yeah, and in all the like the flashbacks of the parents, they don't look that old, and Rey is also not that old. So this is all like, I don't know, maybe 40 years has passed.
Yeah, I want to say it's even like, because it's Luke in the last movie was like a year before this movie, like in the timeline.
Right.
Luke looked like he was 50 and he was like 20 in the first one. So it's like 30 years maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so he, like, Palpatine got to it when he looked like that for sure.
Palpatine fell out of that lightning shaft into space through an explosion and like into a singles club. Like, there is no way that he could have waited at all to have that kid, because that kid had to have Rey, who is like 20. It's literally like the second last movie is done, he had to be just immediately in a relationship. Like shotgun wedding right away.
Yeah. The bottom of that like space chute that he fell down was actually a wormhole into like the bar from that one other episode. I don't remember.
The Mos Eisley canteen.
Yeah.
Maybe Sny Snoodles is the grandma.
Who is that? I don't remember who that is.
Could you go ahead and look up Sny Snoodles for me?
Is this one of the ugly Yoda people?
No.
Sny? Is it Sny? Am I hearing it?
I think it's Sny. It might be Sly, but I think it's Sny.
Size. Oh, okay. I'm really hoping that this isn't Ray's grandmother.
She sings at the bar.
Oh God. It is.
So, speaking of weird, extra fast relationships, so I don't think this is their intention, but the way they shot it and did the line work really seemed like it. So Lando is in this movie. Maybe the least Lando has ever been in a movie Lando's in. And his job is to be an old, I think, general or admiral, I forget which they call him. And he's like, damn, I'm out of the game. And that's like all he does until he shows up at the end with like a giant fleet or whatever. Like it's the Han Solo moment, but worse. And the other Finn that they find, at the end, she's sitting on a log and she's like, I don't have any parents. Like, she's just sort of like, she's bummed out. And he's sitting on the log next to her and he's like, well, let's go find your parents. In a way that's just like very, I don't think the line was supposed to be delivered like they were gonna bang soon, but it was very much delivered that way.
Oh God.
Anybody who thinks that I'm not reading that correctly, they should go back and watch that again.
I remember that being creepy.
It's a weird way. It's also the last time you see either of those characters. It cuts away after he says like, yeah, and then they're done. That's it. The gay aliens in the very last celebration scene feels like a throwaway, like it feels like the fucking directors from what's the Marvel roundup ending movie called? It's not Apocalypse. It's
Endgame.
Endgame. In Endgame, the part 2 starts off with the director like at a therapy session in like an old busted up building after everybody's disappeared, and he's talking about being gay. And that's literally all they show. That's like their gay representation moment, is the director saying, I'm gay. This felt very much like that, and supported by my gay roommate, in which they have a incredibly brief scene where two appear to be male aliens embrace each other at the celebration scene, and it just cuts away from it right away. And it's just like, so that's your Poe and Finn make good? Like, these two characters who are like very, very friendly through all of these movies, and then they get a extended hug, but with Rey in the middle, and at the very end you get two gay aliens being like, and then like cut away.
Do they actually kiss, or do they just hug?
I believe they kiss. I would have to look again because it's literally like like it's gone.
See it? No, you don't. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's kind of what I remember. Yeah. Poe and Finn.
It's weird because in the first movie they were like playing it very Star Warsy, and like it was negotiable still. Like, yeah, they get along, but like guys get along sometimes. Yeah. The second movie felt like it went with it, and it was like, yeah, they're like very excited to see each other, which is like, okay, yeah, I can see that. And then the third movie, it's just like, no!
No.
Look at these women, they want to bang.
I love the idea of that too, like that makes it so that the other thing can't be possible. Yeah. It's like, no, look, women, they want the women, that one, that single one.
The idea of bisexuality, not in space,
doesn't exist. No, we have space wizards, but you can't like the dudes and the gals.
You like space dick, or you like nothing?
Oh, and they actually, a bisexual anything would have been very interesting because Finn does spend almost the entirety of those 3 movies screaming Rey's name. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of all they write for his character is just following her around like a puppy dog and being like, "Rey, what's happening?" And he is obviously like into her, and there are multiple scenes where he's like, "I need to tell you something." That's like their only running
Right.
thing for him, and it's never addressed at
Well,
all.
it's addressed vaguely in that he's force sensitive. Because
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
do the thing of like, well, how do you know like where they are? And he's like, well, I can feel it. They're right there. Like he has a couple scenes where it's kind of made clear that like he's got some kind of like sensitivity, but that shit made more sense in the last movie where they were still addressing Leia like she was one of those like essentially the Jedi version of the space wizards. In the
Mm.
video games that were assisted by LucasArts to like make that universe fleshed out from like a long time ago. Um, they literally break up the Jedi into like 4 classes of people. And one of them is like a scoundrel thing, basically to work in, like, well, I don't know, maybe Han Solo. Uh, but
Makes
the
sense.
rest of them are like very big, tough, proud Jedi, sort of Jedi who's like just, I don't know, middle of the road, like does the mind tricky stuff and is whatever. And then one that like doesn't even really have a lightsaber, just kind of like is a magician because that's what they ended up being, which in a world that you're fleshing out, it makes sense to have different grades of like
Right.
what they are. Uh,
Mhm.
they also in the second movie they push really hard on some ideas that in the extended universe make a lot of sense. The second movie being the eighth movie,
Okay.
um, in which a big chunk of extended universe is about gray Jedi, and that's supposed to be the balancing of the universe. Is that having these two sides fighting each other is the problem. Neither side should win. They should be like in an equilibrium so that there can actually be like some sense of like justice in the universe instead of
Hmm.
two different sides justice.
Which would have made sense because that's kind of I think what they made Kylo Ren's uh goal to kind of be
Right.
in the second one. He just wanted like both sides to not
Yeah,
win.
he wanted to get rid of both sides, which
Yeah.
is exactly what that is. And that's why
Right.
there were a lot of nerds that were like, oh, he'll be the good guy because he's trying to go to the next level of like not dealing with this war anymore. And
Mm.
that becomes the extended universe problem is like, well, should they be isolationists and just have like their own separate thing and not fuck with people anymore, which is the right answer, or should they be a big powerful class of people themselves, and then that would put them at odds with people, and like so the evil comes from people who essentially are fascists instead of people who are like on the other side, which
Right.
is more compelling, but they're never going to make compelling stories for this. They're just going to do good versus evil, I feel like. So
Space eugenics, I guess,
yeah, if you're not
instead of
if you're
yeah.
not like literally Hitler, then you can't be a bad guy because anything less than that is just the United States. So it doesn't work for a US company.
Oh god. Or you also can't possibly be special or have good qualities of your own accord or like do anything outside of good space magic that inhabits
Yeah.
you. um Man, that's got to be the for me the most disappointing aspect of it because Ray could have been the coolest character of just
Mm.
like on her own innate like I don't know what you would call like goodness or just some quality of hers that makes it possible for her to use the force and be that person. um but they're just like no, you can't you can't be special on your own merits. It's got to be a
Yeah.
bloodline thing, which it's very interesting to me. The people on YouTube who do like long video essays about this are always talking about the differences between like the two directors that worked on this last trilogy. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember the other. It's like Ryan something.
Rian Johnson or whatever, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that sounds right. Like
He's like
Ryan.
the Looper guy.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that, but um like him and then JJ, and if like the more that I hear people talk about it and explain like they're kind of different styles and how the switch between the two sort of happened, it
Yeah.
becomes so clear that like JJ Abrams clearly had a way that he wanted to do things. Ryan Jones clearly had a way that he wanted to kind of uh I don't know, flesh out some of the more storylines that would have more to do with the extended universe, like the stuff that you're
Yeah.
referencing. And then J.J. Abrams came in and took the reins back and was basically like, no, fuck you. We're not going to do any of that shit.
Yeah. It
Undo
feels
it all.
like because he also wasn't gonna direct any of the other movies, just the first one. And he only came back to like burger the other guy's stuff.
Yeah.
Like they should have had a completely different third director. Like that's the only thing that I think would have worked in a decent way, but instead
Hmm.
they used JJ again and made a bad movie. A really bad movie. I can't emphasize enough how bad that is. Um
Hmm.
so have you seen Wonder Woman 84?
No, but I've heard things about it.
Okay. I legitimately really liked it, but
Really?
it is a movie that if you end up watching it, do you have a way to watch it?
What streaming or service is it on?
HBO.
Okay, I could probably finagle a way to get it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait and see if you're able to watch it because I'd like to talk about it at some point. I that well, one other thing about Star Wars, real quick. That was the ninth Harry Potter movie. So the fifth, sixth, and or sixth, seventh, and eighth Harry Potter movies kept getting more and more basic and bad.
Mm.
This would fit perfectly in that timeline of the quality of like movie and like the way they shoot it, which is super disappointing because the last movie I didn't like that much, but it was markedly better in terms of its like future possibilities. This feels very much like the Harry Potter method of let's make sure all the characters have like the most basic character arc possible, get rid of anything interesting. Are Hermione and Ron together? This is a book problem too, obviously. Like, well, yeah, they're both main characters, like all that stuff. Like, it's bad writing, and I guess that just has a lot of things that feel similar. Um, Wonder Woman is very different in that it was written first. Like most of this movie is a comic book. I don't think it's called 84. I think it is a different name, but it's mostly taken from the beats of a comic book. It looks like a comic book, like the way that they do stuff. So there's a scene I'm going to tell you about that's not a spoiler because you know that the boyfriend shows up, right?
I haven't seen any of the Wonder
Okay.
Woman franchise, so.
There's a boyfriend in the first one, played by Newkirk. Uh, he shows up in the second one. He's dead in the middle. That isn't erased. It's just like storyline stuff. There is a scene in the second one where it shows a random dude in a bomber jacket or something similar, and he walks up to her at a point in the movie and is like, "Hey, I found you." And it's literally a random dude. There is nothing about him that like is a character you've seen. And he even doesn't look that much like an actor. He's like just sort of a dude. And then it has a little scene where she's just like, "Look, stop bothering me." And then he starts talking to her and goes like behind her, and it's just the other guy all of a sudden. And that is one of the most comic panel things I've seen in a movie of like, this is not a movie thing. Like, you can't just do that in a movie and have it make sense, because they literally don't explain it. You just have to infer it. And there's a lot of stuff like that in it that is like done in a way that a comic book would do it, both in storytelling and in character usage. That I think is actually, if you like comic books and older comic books as well, you'll really appreciate it. But if you aren't familiar with comic books, it probably seems like sloppy usage of things. So I'm curious how that'll land for you, since you're not as like singles comic look kind of person.
Yeah, that, I mean, the way you're describing it sounds very like visually interesting, so I'd be curious.
It's a specific kind of artistic license that is not very often in a giant budget movie.
Yeah.
They also, like, for example, the antagonist or an antagonist has a kid that's like a focal point for like some plot, but not really a character. And they use that kid like a prop in both his placement and like that you never know anything about him. It's just, here's kid. And they'll put him in another spot and you'll be like, Dad. And they'll put him in another spot. And it's like, the way that they did that stuff is like just weird comic book panels that just work if that aesthetic is familiar. And I think this movie will probably be a huge flop because of that. And also the movie is about why capitalism is evil, which I think is definitely going to keep it from being an appreciated movie in the way that it should be, maybe.
So far I've heard, I think I like just scrolling through Twitter have seen people been like making fun of it.
Yeah.
I don't know any specific reason why. I've seen memes about it, but
it's a goof-ass movie. Like, I can totally see people making fun of it if they went in thinking, this will be a serious movie. But, like, the last movie was a goof-ass movie that I thought was way worse than this. And people didn't fucking talk about the Dragon Ball Z fight at the end of Wonder Woman, which was terrible. But this doesn't have that. This is actually like a decent story and decent writing, which I appreciate. An example I gave Natalie, a friend of the podcast, the antagonist is unable to fulfill anything that he wants without taking something from somebody else. And he basically becomes capitalism in this, like, sideways kind of way. One of the first things he does as like a major move in the storyline is he goes to buy up all the oil fields that the largest oil field owner in Saudi Arabia has. So he goes to meet up with this guy and he says like, well, I sold them all to like another Arab nation. So like, it's cool you showed up, but like, I don't have shit. And his response to that is he buys his security staff, and then his like weird power of capitalism destabilizes his whole nation, and then he just leaves. And it's like both very dumb in a way, but it's also like, if you know anything about the US and how capitalism has affected things, it's essentially just like, oh, okay, this is like 80s era US just distilled into a person. And that's how they play that whole movie, is like, it's one of those weird things where like, if you wrote this as a comic book, people reading it would be like, I get the illusions, but because it's a movie, you have to try a lot harder to be like, not just looking at what happens, but thinking about it. And I think that's why it's as soon as I got like halfway through that movie, I was like, nobody's gonna like this. This movie is really good though. And they put in really stupid scenes of personal growth, which I think are probably important, but they're slow and they're literally dumb things of like Wonder Woman essentially learns to fly because she learns to like not be so hung up about like the past, basically. Like it's very, very like YA novel, like, oh, okay, now you are less inhibited kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it works, but like if you're not thinking about it as like an actual direct idea instead of it being like the image of her stupidly like soaring through the air, then like you're not gonna enjoy that past just thinking it looks dumb, which it does, absolutely. But the
Yeah.
fact that that's less popular than the idea of this fucking 4-hour train wreck that is coming out of the Justice League movie is a real bummer, because it's much better than any of that shit.
I'm curious to see it then. I haven't seen any of the Wonder Woman it's just that the first one, and then this is the second one, right?
Also, you don't need to see the first one. Like,
Okay.
You could see them in either order. It doesn't matter. The only spoiler for the whole thing is that, hey, her boyfriend from the past that's like World War I or like mid in that area is dead, which is like, yeah, of course. Like, sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There is no other spoiler. Like it gives you a single story for both.
Okay. Well, interesting.
But yeah, it's something that I would like to talk about specifics with you once you've seen it, but like it's hard to be the defense force for something that is like, honestly, it's still a very like goofy movie, so like I don't want to build it up like it's amazing, because I don't think it's necessarily that. I'm just impressed that they used. Here's the thing. They made a big budget movie with the things in this movie that are in it, and that's impressive to me, because it's very weird to see a lot of this. They even have like what Cheetara or whatever her name is, I forget. I think Cheetara is like a Thundercat or something, but they put a bad guy in this that is like one of the most boring, stupid bad guys ever, with like the least explanation that makes sense. And instead of making it about like, hey, here's this bad guy, they made it about a character that is just sort of like more nuanced than it had to be. That's in the previews that you've probably seen, the like the other female lead.
I haven't seen any previews for it.
Yeah. And that stuff is just sort of like, I don't know. There's no way to describe it other than goofy, but I like what they did with it. Do you have anything else to talk about? I would like to share a website from 6 years ago with you.
Oh, good. No, I don't. I'm good. I'm covered.
Excellent. So we're getting close to closing up, maybe like 25 minutes or so, but I decided I wanted to start doing a thing so that I could have something to yell about that isn't necessarily our terrible politics, because our terrible politics are going to show up no matter what.
Right.
The leftist in our title, not our title, but our description, is always going to be there. But instead, maybe you can help me think of a name for this. I went onto the internet and I did some dirtbag surfing. That could be a title, maybe.
Nice. Yeah.
So
I
I was like, what would a dirtbag want from the internet? And I thought, how would you get laid on New Year's Eve? Because only a dirtbag would want to go get laid during COVID year on New Year's Eve. So I found on the Bro Bible, that's brobible.com, don't go there. Written
I'm
by
going there.
a Bennett. 7 things you should never do while partying on New Year's Eve. And this this came up off of the search, how to get laid on New Year's Eve. And I just kind of wanted to go over this because I feel like this is an excellent example of guy writing for guys about guy stuff.
I love it. Oh my god.
I've got if this line of searching works out for the future, well, everybody so many people could use a guide for how to like be the right kind of dude to get laid on New Year's Eve. So
Yeah.
let's I'll just start this off, get to the actual listing of stuff here. But every year, millions of Americans or millions of people smash billions of ounces of alcohol in the hopes of making memories they won't remember. Very good writing here. And this is your chance to get in on the fun like never before. So listen to my advice and avoid doing this dumb shit to ensure that you party your ass off right on New Year's Eve. Do not, ellipses. Repeating again, this is from like 2014. So also the listing of this is a do not, but all of the listed items are bold as titles. So it has do not once, and then under it, it has bold titles that are the things you're supposed to not do, but it does not mention that directly. So if I were to read this just as a thing of like, here's listed ideas, what I would read is, be spontaneous. Plan this shit out, bro. Do not leave it to your last minute man friends to decide on a place to go. Make
Man friends? Friends isn't specific enough.
Yeah, no. Lady friends, gross.
Fellas, is it gay to have female friends?
I don't have female friends. Girls ain't nothing less I'm chin deep. So make sure that no matter what happens, you are guaranteed to have a good time somewhere. That's what not to do. So the way this is written is like a double negative already, which is crazy. Point 2, wait in line anywhere. In line with planning, if you know where you're going to go and it's a club of some kind, hang out there a few minutes. Tip the bartenders well. Tip the door guys well. Tip the DJ. Smile. Ask about their day. I once wrote about how university employees can help you get laid. I have not read that article, but it's linked here, and I am afraid of it. Don't have university employees help you get laid.
No.
So, also, this is the start of a paragraph. It is so, comma, also, comma, can the people that work at places you frequent? That's a paragraph skip.
Okay.
And it starts with a capital. So this is his sentence. So, also, can the people that work at places you frequent? Good start to a paragraph. Anyway,
nice.
I like to take liberties with writing, but that is notably terrible. The next sentence is, it's called networking. That's also a sentence. You've heard of that shit, right? You've used it to get a job, right? Use it to party too. You never know what opportunities might fall into your lap simply because you made friends with some folks, and it definitely will help in getting around those damned obnoxious lines other suckers get roped into.
I cannot think of a worse networking. I cannot think of something more annoying to do. Something I'd like to do less.
This sounds like the way that you would plan out being a serial killer. Drink before 10. Pace your drinking. Again, pace your drinking. That's all individual sentences. You're going to get at least minutely smashed at some point. No need to rush into it and risk becoming that guy fucking up everyone's good time. Besides, you really don't need that much alcohol to build and maintain a buzz, you fucking alky. Honestly, though,
God.
I probably won't need this advice, so follow me on Twitter. I'm not going to say his Twitter name. To watch me say shit I shouldn't be saying when I get drunk as fuck. Next in the do not list, go after average girls. Do not hedge your bets. If you want to make memories, you gotta shoot as high as possible. This means going for girls you feel might be out of your league. Besides, you never know who could be feeling your vibe or feeling it after several glasses of champagne. That's called
Oh boy.
Whether you go to a house party or a block-sized club party, dress like you mean it. Shine those shoes. Use the good shower gel.
Shine your shoes?
The good shower gel? That implies you use the bad shower gel.
I hate it.
The $70 cologne is your friend here. In fact, the cologne will be a better wingman than your handsome homie, especially since the cologne won't steal your girl. Again, fuck you, Barry.
Okay, that one's good. Okay, that's it. Why does this writer assume that all guys have like a good version of something and a bad version of something, and the bad is like what they use every day?
Yeah, it assumes a lot about dudes in a way that, like, I don't have a super high opinion of like general dudes, but this really paints it. Eat shitty. If you eat shitty food before you go out, your chances of getting hungover skyrocket. So drink lots of water before and during your night out. And before you leave the homestead, eat some eggs, almonds, and pickles. Yo, dog, eat some eggs, almond, and pickles.
The homestead? Oh my god.
Do it right and you could drink your balls off and come out the other side.
I love this website.
Go in this looking to get laid. This guy needs a writing class really bad. I know, I sound like a sacrilegious contradictory asshole here, but hear me out. You got into all this partying and shit for the hopes of getting laid in the first place, right? Well, you're doing it wrong then. Girls can smell desperation on you like skunk smell in the heat of summer. So focus your night on partying with your bros. Being the life of the party is infinitely more attractive than slobbering all over your prospects. But more importantly, if you party this way, it's not a total wash if you don't get some because you had a fucking good time regardless. That's the beginning of what I would like to start doing, which is finding bad articles about bad things. How many times did he actually talk about New Year's in that article?
Maybe twice. Maybe
Hey.
twice. Wow, so much good advice though.
Find somebody who seems like they wouldn't be interested in you and get them drunk. That's an important step.
Rule number one.
Networking. Get out there, meet some people, pay some bartenders really well for a couple of years, and maybe you'll get laid. Just like what I paid off people who work at my college, maybe.
Ugh. There's a lot to unpack there. There's so much.
Okay, so prospectively, how would somebody networking with the people who work at your college get them laid?
Like, this sounds like a roofing situation.
It sounds
more than anything.
It sounds like a lot of this, like somebody being like in a spot where other people will look away from what they're doing more than anything.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is like, you know people who might want to date you, and that's not how this is set up. This is like meeting randos. So it's hard to think of a not terrible way that any of this is going to help you out.
But yeah, also, I'm sorry. I don't see why you need to pay your bartender extra money for like.
He does go into the idea of not going out to get laid in the first place, which is, while funny, not the worst advice, but maybe don't write an article about how to get laid, and then at the end be like, don't try to get laid, though. And specifically, like, one-night stand laid, which is what this is implying, with somebody who is too drunk to know any better. Also, the tip of, like, teetotaling is funny, because that's, like, another stereotype of, like, sociopaths, is to... not really... Everybody else gets drunk. I don't really get that drunk. I want to be in control. So that's a little bit
part's
terrifying.
a little freaky.
Yeah. That mixed with the get a couple glasses of champagne into that unattainable hottie.
Concerning on many levels.
At least it's not from a website called, like, the Bro Bible or ooh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah-oh.
The Bro Bible has a lot of great articles I'm finding.
Would you go ahead and let me know what some of those articles are now, please?
Yeah, so I found one called 10 Quick Steps to Manage Your Money Like a Millionaire.
Okay.
So,
I did type in Bro Bible, and the first thing that popped up was, can I give my girlfriend cash for Christmas?
yeah, that's the next one. There's so many good ones. Lots of sports stuff, so not as interested in that.
No. I don't need to know how to do some sports and field goal on somebody.
No, I just like this headline. If you thought your 2020 was bad, get a load of what Supercuts did to this man's head.
Don't go to Supercuts in 2020.
Yeah. I could think of a couple of reasons why a person might not choose to go to Supercuts in 2020 or in any other year.
True, yeah.
Depending on the quality of your local Supercuts. What is... I'm looking for some more that aren't... Most of these are sports related. I was trying to find the article.
Do they have a category, like section?
Yeah, they do. But what category was that under? Did you see?
I didn't see a category, but if they have a, like, lifestyle or romance section, that's probably what we're looking for.
I have newsletter, culture, sports, gear, shows, NFL picks, and writers.
Hit the writers button, because that is exactly who I would think was writing here.
All of this makes sense.
Yeah. I'm gonna say culture is probably what we're looking for,
Okay.
based on all of the other topics not being. Woman fights Bumble over photos deemed too revealing, but dating app allows same photos if taken outside. Yeah, this is definitely the right area to be in.
Mm-hmm. This is we're in the right place.
Oh, they got Easter eggs for Pixar's Soul.
So, I did see that. They really cover the gamut here.
Yeah. This
some Wonder Woman news. It's being fast-tracked. Or Wonder Woman 3. Sorry.
Strange. All right. Wow, this is this seems like they don't have a like a thesis statement for what their website is.
No, it is really kind of all over the place. I was hoping to find more content, like what we would.
Based on the one that I found being from 2015, I think that stuff exists in the past. So that's where I'm going to be looking for it.
Well, darn. Here we go. A doctor suggests the post-COVID era will be nonstop hedonism, which sounds quite all right to me, is the headline.
That's the full headline?
Yeah.
I think the people who are excited about the idea of a bunch of desperate people trying to get out there and, like, have a life again are the same people who think that all of the hot people are just hiding from them somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Oh, I found a good one.
Yeah.
An interview with Tommy Lahren, how she avoids hangovers, dating in Nashville, and an unconventional conversation.
Oh boy, we just found some what are your
Mother Lode.
political beliefs?
I'm really not enjoying these, like, weirdly, like, she did a sexy photo shoot. I don't think you should be allowed to do sexy photo shoots when you spend your time just railing against people doing whatever they want.
I don't want people to have health care because then more people might look comfortable enough to have sexy photo shoots, and that would be competition.
Oh God. So this is the photo I'm talking about. That tuxedo is a print of Donald Trump's
Oh.
face.
I mean, it does make me want to start making silk screens even more so we can do something better than that.
That's horrible.
Well, glad to see that even though she fell out of the spotlight, she's still a piece of shit.
Yep. Some things don't change.
Yeah. Well, we can't end this podcast on Tommy Loren.
No,
So.
of course not. Well, what else have we?
I have many Christmas movies, but I don't have time to go over them unless there's one that's bad enough for me to go over a little bit, which there is one like that. So I guess to close this out, I will give everybody my recommendation for an anti-recommendation, which means please go watch it and hate it along with me. And that is the one I briefly mentioned last week. That is a worst or worse. I made that same mistake last week. Beastly. It is Beauty and the Beast, called Christmas Belle, I believe. Yes, Christmas Belle. It stars Belle. So here's the difference between this and Beauty and the Beast. She and her dad work in an appraisal business that seems to be a business that just does money.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to get in that business.
Yeah. If I can appraise art and books by just going online and seeing how much they sell for and get paid for it, that sounds cool. Anyway, so that's their job basically. A guy shows up at the beginning who's their version of Gaston, whose name is like Eric or something. Like it's vaguely clever, I think, but it's not clever at all the way they use it. And he shows up and he's like, "Hey, Belle, are we going on that date later?" And she's like, "Ha, we're friends though." And then she has a job where she's supposed to go. There's a rich guy who's like trying to get rid of his house, and he has like a full library. And she's like, "I love books." So she goes to like do appraisals of everything in his house and stay there for a couple days. So that's their Beauty and the Beast setup.
Okay.
Instead of her being stolen, she goes to this guy's house for her job and is like excited to do it, but also doesn't necessarily want to take over the business. She's just doing it because his house is a giant wine villa with a it's like Lifetime movie quality. So like a library set in the middle of it that has books that are actually like not picture books. And that's the like exciting library. So she goes there and he's very gruff about things, but his dog likes her, which is like a little schnauzery mix thing. She has like the master bedroom given to her because he doesn't want to stay there. And the dog keeps coming and hanging out with her. So the things they kept from Beauty and the Beast are he's intensely jealous and abusive in terms of like his personality, but he's not a beast, so they can't even blame it on that. He never changes. So
He's just shitty.
his storyline of change is that he he likes Belle enough to get over the fact that he had a girlfriend before and he doesn't now. She like died, but it was like a while ago. So like he's been living in this house without her, but he's like just emotionally horrible, and by the end he's emotionally horrible. Like that's his storyline. Her storyline is that she thinks the library is cool and she's into him because he walks around with no shirt on and has abs. But this movie has like 5 or 6 scenes of him shirtless in shorts, sweaty, running through like the vineyard, like, and it's gigantic. It's like acres and acres of space that's supposed to be his estate. It's so big that it has like a covered bridge over part of it. And he ends up becoming comfortable with staying in the house, kind of because they just start like getting together essentially. And then the only real conflict is that he doesn't want to have everybody at the house for Christmas in the town. So he's a bad guy because he doesn't want to have the whole town come to his villa for Christmas because that sounds like a lot of work. And Belle says, well, I'll do the work instead. And he's like, all right, I guess so. Like, that's how the story progresses. And then the guy who is a friend of hers, who's just like, he's a friend in the same way that the Princess Switch 2 guy is the friend. Like, it's that same character, basically. And he shows up and he's like, yeah, we're dating. And she's like, no, we're not. And he's like, yeah, we're dating. And then the guy playing the Beast is like, ah, and runs off. Like, he doesn't have any sort of, like, emotional anything. Like, his emotional intelligence is, well, this guy said something, so it's true. And then he has a section of, like, maybe 10 minutes where she explains to him, like, no, we're not dating. Like, that's crazy. He just showed up. The other side thing that's happening, while nothing interesting is happening, is that the lady from Walker, Texas Ranger, who's the love interest, and the bartender, who's another actor, are the teapot and the candlestick. But they're not anything. They're just local people who keep trying to push him to have a relationship with her, and that's it.
Okay.
And I think it ends up being his mom, I think, is like, it's sort of not described early, and then it's like, well, I'm his mom. Anyway, so, and Jesus and the Bible. Like, that's basically how this thing is like, no, you should just do it. The cool down period after he gets upset happens, and then they have the Christmas party, and they show up again, and there's like tension. But to set that up, throughout the movie, the friend who's like just sort of trying to like trick her and her dad into him being her husband for no reason, who's also insanely rich, he goes to try and buy the villa because he's trying to sell it because he's sad about his girlfriend. And he's just gonna buy it and like give it to Belle and be like, see, we should just get married then. Which is like, it's cool. It's a scummy like douchebag thing, but it's also like, I mean, if he bought it and just like gave it to her, like, who cares, kind of. But at the same time, like, I get it, like, that's the antagonist. But every time she talks to her dad, who's like very dumb in this, he's just hanging out at lunch with the friend who's trying to bang her, and they're talking about how much he wants to bang her, which is the creepiest, like, oh yeah, I got like Eric here. He's talking about like how much he wants to bone down. Here's Eric. And the dad, even though they've never dated, and it's made pretty clear that that's the situation, and she says we're just friends in front of the dad to start the movie, the dad just thinks like, well, they're going to get married. It's fine. And so when they show up to the Christmas party unannounced, the Beast character again is just, he runs off into basically the vineyard to like be angry about how she's been lying to him, even though there's no like indication of any of that. It is a telenovela in movie form, and I suggest everybody watch it, but watch it with like the same level of disgust for the story that I did, because it was pretty entertaining on that level.
It sounds very good.
It's awful, and it's called Christmas Bell, and it feels like they spent at least $100 on it, and it is also that like trapping of everybody here is rich and nobody has any problems, yet they still find problems because I guess they have to. Anyway, that is not Tommy Loren, so we can actually end the podcast.
There we go. We did it. You did it. You saved it. You saved Christmas.
Saved Christmas, pajabbers.
Begone thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.